Hey guys, JJ here. This time to chat a little bit about Week 16 NFL DFS. Got a bunch of big matchups this week and a bunch of player pricing, which is all over the place. This video is going to be particularly for DraftKings, and it's going to really be focused on tournaments. I'm not going to go too much into the cash game approach. Just going to be strictly tournaments. I'm going to give you three guys from each position. Quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. Defense, I'll leave to the imagination. But I'll go into some plays from each that I like, call it high, mid, and low price guys, and guys that I think have a tremendous amount of upside. When you're doing tournaments like this on DraftKings and FanDuel, you're really going to be targeting guys that can get you 4 to 5x, obviously even more, even better. But, cash games, you're really looking for 3x. But for tournaments, you're really looking for guys with those high ceilings, right? You can have a low floor, but, if you're a guy if you can catch a guy on the right game, right day, where he absolutely goes off. That's ultimately what you're looking for, and you're looking for that at about 5 or 6 different players. So I'm going to go through the list of guys I like that have that potential upside, and I'll give you some tips on certain running backs or wide receivers that I think you might need to have in your lineups for more of that safe value as well. So without further ado, I'm going to dive right in. Okay, at the quarterback position on the high side, the player I like the most is going to be Andrew Luck at 6,200. You'll see in there Roethlisberger, Watson, Breeze, Goff, Rodgers, even Trubisky, all priced above Andrew Luck. Not to say that those guys can't have a good matchup. I'm just, again, this is a numbers game. Andrew Luck, in my opinion, has the most chance to hit that 24 to 31 point value. He's at 62, so he's going to need to fall in that 24 to 31 range to get you that between 4 and 5x. It's very doable for him. He's a guy that often throws for 300 yards. I know the Giants for matchup for him isn't the best, but game flow dependent. Andrew Luck plays very well at home. They should be able to pile on points against the Giants tomorrow, team that's practically given up. So I really like him tomorrow. Throw a few touchdowns, go over 300 yards. That'll land him in that 25, 26 point area. So again, I favor him over the other guys above him. Even Roethlisberger and Breeze, despite them having that the potential shootout of a matchup, I really don't like their prices there. So definitely favoring Luck. On the middle tier, I really prefer Dak Prescott at 5,700. Dak's price, let me scroll down to him here. If I can find him. Dak's price at 5,700. There's so much value there for him because he's coming off one of his worst games of the season, and actually his worst game of the season. And in this spot for him specifically, there's a lot of value for him. Tampa Bay has been extremely friendly to opposing offenses, and I think when you take the number that Dak's at, he needs anywhere between call it 22, 28 points to get you where you want to be. The opportunities are going to be there for him. Wouldn't even be surprised if he sneaks into the end zone via rushing touchdown. Tampa Bay, they just give up points, fantasy points, and points, to everyone they play. I'll speak more on Zeke in a bit as well, but really like Prescott in this spot. Real bounce back game for him, and it's a huge game for Dallas. So I definitely expect them to be well prepared for it. So I gave you a high and mid. I'm going to go down really low here. I think you'll hear people like Nick Foles tomorrow at 47. I'm not in love with that just because, they even won a game against the Rams and he still didn't make value. But who I do like, probably better if I just type him. Imagine if this worked. Taylor Heinicke from Carolina, who's starting in place of Cam Newton. Heinicke played at Old Dominion, the Monarchs, and was, a dual threat quarterback. I mean, he ran a bit. Even in the preseason, he played a few games this year for Carolina. And he ran a bit there as well. I think you're gonna get a guy that's got a very much of a plus matchup. Atlanta's very friendly to opposing quarterbacks, and he's 4K. So what does that mean? He needs 16 to 20 points. That could be 250 yards, which would be 10 points, and 2 touchdowns, which would be 18. If he rushes for 20, if he rushes for 20 yards, he's already at 20. Now, granted, I'm not taking into account turnovers. The kid's probably gonna throw an interception or two. But again, when you're talking what his floor is, Carolina loves to, dink and dunk to McCaffrey. I think that he could pile up yards in that manner. So I believe that there's a tremendous amount of value there. Now, granted, there's not a lot of spots where you really need to save up on this slate at all. But again, if you're looking for somebody that could, has a floor of probably 3x with a ceiling of above 5x, at 4K, Taylor Heinicke would definitely be somebody I'd look into starting at quarterback. Okay, so we discussed the three different quarterback options. I'm going to give you guys a few running back options. Before I go into the options that I like for GPPs, I want to just mention that I believe the lineup that's going to win most, if not all, the GPPs is going to have either Zeke or McCaffrey in them. Could even have both. I'm not going to mention any of them in these GPPs because I feel like it's kind of common knowledge. Everybody knows tomorrow they should probably be locking in Zeke or McCaffrey and or both into the lineups. What I'm going to give you is I'm going to give you three options that I think for running backs that are underpriced that could fill maybe that flex spot or maybe could fill that other running back slot if you're going to play McCaffrey or Zeke instead of playing both of them. So again, to be clear, McCaffrey or Zeke should be one if not both should be in your lineups, but I'm going to give you guys with tournament upside play as well. So Barkley, Saquon, let me go to him, running back. He's another guy coming off his worst game of the year. You'll notice that I like to target that often. I mean, NFL's a week-to-week league. You're going to get guys that in 1 week, really gross you out to the point where you want to puke thinking about them. But then the next week, they go off and explode. It's a week-to-week league, and as long as you keep that in mind and don't let a player get you down. This is a pricing game. Barkley's price was high last week in a bad matchup. This week his price is lower, much lower in a much better matchup. So if you look at Barkley, price at $7,900, it's truly a price point play. He's game flow neutral. He doesn't matter if the Giants are ahead or if they're behind. He catches a ton of passes. At 7,900, he needs to get you 31 to about 39 points, which again, very doable for him. I believe he's done that 4 or 5 times this year already. So again, I like it with no Odell. They've been leaning on him even more in the passing game. So at that price, I think you're getting a tremendous amount of value for a guy that easily could score twice. Giants could still lose by 2 touchdowns. Barkley could still find his way into the end zone twice, piling up 100 rushing yards and getting you well over the value that you're paying for him. I want to quickly mention as well, Kamara at 74. When he's in that price range, he's always playable. I do not like him though. I know other people might tout him at that price. I just think with Ingram in the mix, him splitting touches is a tough sell for me. But I can understand why people would want to play him. I definitely prefer paying $500 more for Barkley though. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys a mid play or a mid price play. We're going to scroll down here. I'm going to scroll down here to Leonard Fournette. So Leonard Fournette definitely would have left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth last week. He played one half of football and then seemingly was taken out of the game. Some people thought it was disciplinary. Some people thought he was injured. He said, she said. But either way, he's been practicing all week, fully healthy. If he is going to get the plethora of touches, which he should, he's a tremendous play. Miami is awful against the run. Minnesota ran all over them last week. And actually all year teams have been running all over Miami. They have one of the worst yards per carry defense allowed in the NFL. So teams week by week are just constantly running all over Miami. I don't expect this to be any different. I know that people look at the total and the implied totals and kind of completely fade the game. But you need to realize like Leonard Fournette's price is very low for what he's capable of. I mean, he's going to catch 3-4 balls, and he's also going, as long as they're doing what they were doing a few weeks ago, and he's not in the doghouse, he's going to see 25 carries. If the game remains close, he's going to get all the touches inside the goal line. So he only needs at 6K, 24 to 30. Think about that, guys. That's 100 yards. 100 yards if he scores twice. 13. That's 25 right there. And if he catches a few balls for a few yards, he's already at 30. That's 5x. The price is incredible for what he's capable of. So definitely don't sleep on him. Don't look at that total and be like, oh, I gotta avoid this game completely. Fournette is a solid value play, especially for tournaments tomorrow in Week 16. Last running back I'll mention, more of I guess the bottom tier. He will probably be the most popular running back play, or one of the most popular running back plays of the day, especially on the lower end of things. Jamal Williams at 5,200. Aaron Jones suffered a season-ending injury, and Jamal Williams was able to pick up about 90%, almost 90% of the snaps last week for Green Bay. They get a decent matchup against the Jets. It's not an incredible one, but you'll see him here, 5,400. It's a spot where you're paying for volume. You're not paying a lot for volume. He should easily get 15 to 20 touches, 3 or 4 at minimum catches. He's a guy that always catches balls out of the backfield. I get the idea that Green Bay doesn't really want to win games, but the Jets don't really want to win games either. Green Bay doesn't really have anybody else in the backfield. I think they have Capri Bibbs back there as well as a secondary, as their only other running back on the team. So Jamal Williams should be out there a lot. Should have plenty of volume, and at that price, again, you're paying there for. He's got a high floor. He's got a high ceiling. He's going to be popular, very popular in tournaments, obviously extremely popular in cash. Just keep in mind, there's no real reason to fade him tomorrow, and I would probably lock him into a lot of my tournaments, despite the high, projected ownership. Okay, let's go to wide receiver. Now, If we go over here to wide receiver, scroll back up to the top, you'll see that there's really not a whole lot of, mouth-watering options on the high end for wide receivers. I mean, Julio's overpriced, Hopkins is overpriced, Devontae Adams is overpriced, Antonio Brown is not even close to what he used to be. Michael Thomas, you could argue, is still kind of overpriced. Juju Smith, questionable. Thielen, it's not a great matchup against Detroit. I know they talked about, Detroit's not good against slot receivers, but like Thielen hasn't been doing a lot in the offense recently. I don't know if teams have just been completely taking him away. I do expect Darius Slay from Detroit to be on Stephon Diggs, so maybe that might open up some things for Thielen. But either way, I'm still not in love with the price. Odell's out. Cooper's price is too high. Diggs is probably priced where he should be, but again, he's expected to see Darius Slay, one of the best corners in football. Julian Edelman, there might be some value there because no more Josh Gordon, a few extra targets, but game flow, not really in his direction. T.Y. Hilton's price too high. Mike Evans is too volatile. We could just go through the whole list. Either way, receivers in this whole entire price range are just not favorable. Gun in my head, if I had to pick one of them, if you really wanted a big receiver in to be, really try to keep yourself a little different from the pack, because I do believe most of the people in playing on Week 16 are not going to be paying. You're not going to see a lot of high ownership on any top price wide receivers. The best option, I believe, is Michael Thomas against Pittsburgh. I do believe they're going to need to lean on him a little more than they've had to. So that would be who I would play if I was going to play any of them, but that's not who I'm going to have included in here. What I will do, though, is I will give you 3 wide receivers that I do like. They're in the mid-tier to lower. Because, again, tomorrow I think it's all about paying up for running back, going cheap at wide receiver, maybe even punting tight end or going a little cheaper at tight end and, getting a good quarterback in there. But so let me give you guys this. So Sterling Shepard has definitely underwhelmed many people over the last 2 weeks, considering Odell's been out. But it is worth noting he has seen 15 targets last 2 weeks. Just kind of been not really on the same page as Eli. I think tomorrow is one of the better matchups he's got. I know that the Colts overall are good against wide receivers, but I do believe the game flow here is very much so leans in the Giants' favor to pass the ball. Evan Ingram for tight end as well is going to be worth mentioning. But Sterling Shepard, there's a lot of value there. He's still 4,800. I mean, I know at 44, 2 weeks in a row, he didn't make value, but the targets are there. The game flow is going to be there. Wide receiver is an ugly position. I think you need to pick guys that have high ceilings. Sterling Shepard could easily break one if he's getting that many targets. He could easily score. So at 4,800, if he happens to catch 6-7 balls, go over 100 yards and score, I mean, you are well in the money there. I mean, you think about that 16, 19, 25, 25 points there. If he can get to that point, it's 5x. And it's very doable. I mean, when Odell wasn't here last year, he was seeing a ton of volume. I don't know why they're not in sync, but I'd like to think that will happen at some point. I'm going to ride that train tomorrow, definitely in some tournaments with Shepard, and I think you guys should as well. Other one, Robbie Anderson's going to be wildly popular tomorrow at 4,500. No Quincy Enunwa, and Robbie Anderson's been targeted very often recently, and back-to-back 20-point weeks. I think that he's going to be extremely popular, but I do believe he's worth it. Again, just based on a target, and the matchup's good, and arguably great. So I don't believe the Robbie Anderson train's going to stop tomorrow. Again, he will be popular, but probably worth it. I mean, he only needs 18 to 22 to get you where you want to be, and ultimately the volume's going to be there for him. And if he happens to score, then you're really cooking. Last but not least, for wide receivers that I will give you guys is going to be John Ross. I think he will be another fairly popular play. There are certain people that believe he's going to be a little too volatile, which could be true. He's more of a deep threat, but no Tyler Boyd, obviously no AJ Green. He just kind of slots in there as the number one. I do believe, Cleveland's not a bad matchup by any means at that price with the potential volume coming his way. Could easily see 10, 11 targets. Don't need an amazing day out of him at that price. For me, I'm going to, John Ross is definitely going to be a lock and load in different tournaments as well. Take some darts on him. You'll have various options you could go through, but the 3 that I'm really targeting specifically that I'm going to be interchanging throughout my lineups or various lineups is going to be Shepard, Anderson, and John Ross. So discussed quarterback, running back, wide receiver. Let's talk tight end. So tight end, another ugly position overall for the day. Let me scroll back up here to the top. Okay, so you have your top options: Kittle, Ertz, Ebron, Gronk. Not on level Kittle. I know that the Bears, while they are a good defense, they are susceptible to tight ends. Not on level Kittle. You're paying basically what a fair price for him against a very good defense. Zach Ertz value goes way down with no more Carson Wentz. Not to say that Ertz can't have a good game. It's just that Foles doesn't target him as much as Wentz does. Brings us to Eric Ebron. Eric Ebron is coming off an awful game. Again, another guy coming off the arguably worst game of the year in a pretty decent matchup. So I believe Ebron is definitely going to be my number one target on the high side. He's 5,700. At that price, he needs to get you guys between about 23 and 28 fantasy points. So very doable. He's a big red zone threat. The Colts are going to score tomorrow against the Giants. That's no mystery. It's just a matter of how they do it. And I do believe Ebron in a bounce back spot. I think that, Hilton's still kind of banged up. He's going to get a lot of targets. Ebron did get targeted. I know he dropped a bunny last week, which would have been a 15, 20-yard gain. Then he had another big game, which was taken back for a holding penalty. So you look at his stat line, and you're like, oh, he didn't really do much last week. One catch or two catches. One catch on 3 targets for 8 yards. But, again, he was a few big plays were taken away from him via penalty. I just think the price is about the same. The matchup is just as good. And tight end overall is a weak position this week. That's why you're kind of gonna want to play him. He's got a fairly high floor despite his one dud. So he's definitely going to be my top option. On the middle range, Evan Ingram, right? I mean, last week he had 12 targets. He's 4,600. I know the price isn't ideal, but and I know that I've now given you guys 3 different Giants players. It's really a pricing game. Barkley's cheaper. Shepard's price is still fair, and Ingram's price is fair based on the volume. They're a team that's going to have to throw. I'm not saying to you guys to combine all 3 in the same lineup, even though that would make you guys, very unique. I do believe you should separate lineups where you have one of those 3, potentially in each of them, just because, there is a good opportunity for at least one of them to make value, and there is an opportunity for all 3 of them to make value. I could definitely see a scenario where the Giants score 21 points and all 3 of them make 4x. So, I mean, it's not wild to think that could happen, but Ingram, the volume's going to be there for him at tight end, and the matchup's pretty good. They're going to be the game flow is going to project Manning to be forced to throw the ball, so definitely worth it there. Argument could also be made if you're going to play Shepard and Ingram. Why not look into the potential of playing Eli, who's I think 4,800. I can't stomach playing Eli. I'd rather play the receivers without him, but just worth noting. Last but not least, for tight end, Blake Jarwin for the Cowboys is 3K, back-to-back weeks of 7 targets or more. Back-to-back week of just 7 targets. Swaim's going to be out. So the number one tight end will be Jarwin. He's been getting targeted in this role. And again, he's only 3K, which, what does that mean, right? It means you don't really need, 4 catches for 50 yards, 5 catches for 40 yards, you're at 9. If he happens to get 5 catches for 40 yards and one of them's a touchdown, he's already, boom, 5X for you. So, I definitely think there's a lot of value there. Tight end is in a very ugly position. I know I said wide receiver is ugly. Tight end's even uglier tomorrow. So, for me, I prefer to take the points where you can, which is, with Ebron, but if you want to pay a little more down, you can go down to Ingram or Jarwin. As for defense, I will hint at quickly. I do believe the most popular play will be the Falcons at 2,300, going up against Heineke. Obviously, quarterback, making his first, I believe it will be his first NFL start. So, at 2,300, it's a fair price. Let me see if maybe we can real quick build a lineup based on all the plays I just discussed. Let's see. So if we went, I told you guys Luck. Told you guys Barkley. Told you guys you're going to need one of these 2. We'll slide in McCaffrey for wide receiver. We will go Shepard. Robbie Anderson. John Ross. By the way, while I'm here, Isaiah McKenzie, wide receiver for Buffalo, is not a bad idea either. Swing guy for them. They run him a lot of reverses and short passes, short screens, and he's been doing pretty well. He got hurt last week, otherwise he could have had a really good game. He did end up coming back late, but he missed at least a quarter. So Isaiah McKenzie, not a bad option if you're thinking about going real ballsy tomorrow for Buffalo. Okay, so Ebron, and then the flex spot will be Williams. Okay, and then you could even go, defense 2,900. For me, I'm not a fan of spending that much for defense. Um, but you'll see how a lineup like this, will put you in this area. I'd probably prefer to go Falcons here, and then um, maybe even go up from Barkley, maybe even go off Barkley, or upgrade from Williams to maybe Fournette. Let me see here. Hold on 1 second. Okay, so we removed Williams and we went Fournette. Now, this is just a quick lineup mocked together for you guys. It wouldn't be a lineup I would, put my stamp on. I'd probably prefer to upgrade to Zeke. I just don't want to, waste your time going in and out of this lineup here. But I would probably prefer upgrade from Barkley to Zeke, get Williams in there, and then, figure something out with regards to the wide receivers. But, I gave you guys a lot of tips and helpful information here. Use it to your advantage. There's so many different ways you can go tomorrow. Pricing is very cheap all around. I would definitely prefer you guys pay up for quarterback, pay up for running back, go cheap at wide receiver, put slot Ebron in there just because tight end overall is a weak position, and then flex. Make sure you're getting Williams or Fournette in there. Fournette will definitely be that, call it that GPP pivot from Williams, because Williams will be extremely popular. Fournette will not be near as popular. The Falcons' defense at 2,300, is arguably a steal just because of the matchup. You got to figure they're going to at least get a pick, a few sacks. I know the Falcons' defense isn't that good. They probably will give up some points, but the value is going to be there because that the kid, despite his good price tag and probably his high floor based on the situation, he's going to make some mistakes, and the Falcons will be able to pick up on that. Okay, guys, wanted to thank you for taking the time to watch the video. Please subscribe to the channel. My dad gave you guys a few picks for the bowl games. I actually gave you one for the bowl game that's tonight. I'll put the link in the video if you guys haven't seen it. But other than that, thanks again for viewing, and good luck in all your tournaments tomorrow.